Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you wherever you are across the world. Welcome to Live a Phenomenal Life Show with me, your host, Madame Merola, the bang creator that ignites the beautiful and bold, audacious, no excuses, God's masterpiece in you. So, yes, it's another motivational Monday. And what a great time for us to hang out and talk about this very important topic which is called breaking the bias, right? All of you knew that last week we had the International Women's Day on March the 8th, and the theme for this year was break the bias. And I was thinking about it consciously, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm not so excited about celebrating International Women's Day, even though I am a women's leader and stuff, because I felt that we were not really doing what we needed to do to go beyond the conversations that we were having, behind the talks, and then start to implement the actions that were necessary for us to start to see the change. And while I was pondering on that, I realized where the problem was. That we did not even understand that bias was beyond gender issues, that bias is something that is deep rooted in us, that we are all biased people. And therefore, we needed reorientation. We needed change. We needed something to shift. And that is the reason why today's topic on Live a Phenomenal Life Show, Season 5, Episode 22, is all about breaking the bias, a conversation beyond gender issues. Okay. So this is not about women's lib or trying to fight for women's freedom. It's about liberating each and every one of us, regardless of whatever gender we are, from the biases that we find ourselves living under consciously and unconsciously every single day. So, welcome once again to Live a Phenomenal Life Show with me, Madame Merola. I am super thrilled to be here again with you. So, before we start to go deep into the conversation, I want to ask you guys to tell me what is your one word for this week? One word that would help you to be focused minded about what you want to do. Okay, so I believe in the power of one word because we are constantly distracted. We're constantly inundated with so many different things in our lives. And it's so easy to forget to be focused. So that is the reason why I believe in the practice of having one word that will allow you to kind of niche down on some certain things to be able to chip away on the things that are necessary and start to focus more on the things that will get you to where you want to go. So, what is your one word for the week? My one word for the week is change. Change, because I believe that there's some certain things within me that I need to change. There's some certain ideas and philosophies that needs to change. There's some certain habits that I have that needs to change. And there's some certain parameters of things that I'm doing that needs to change. Hence the reason why my one word for the week is change. I need to be able to be willing to change certain things that are no longer working for me or serving my highest good. So let me know what your one word for the week is. And as you're logging in, say hi to me. Also, share with me your one word for the week before we go ahead and share the affirmations as well. So I'm typing this for the people on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn so that they can see what my one word for the week is. Okay. So, all right. I actually typed the wrong thing, so I got to do it again. Change word of the week. Okay. So we got that going there. So hello to those of you that are joining in, Mr. Kelvin Osondu. Nice to have you here on Live a Phenomenal Life Show, Season 5, Episode 22. So as I was saying earlier, I said my one word for the week is change. And we're talking about breaking the bias. But before we get into that, okay, it's time for affirmations. It's one of our rudimental things that we do here. We're constantly sharing affirmations because we believe in positive energy. So there's the box of affirmations that I'm getting out. And as you're logging in, say hi to me. I love interaction. I like you guys to be able to feel free to share your comments, share this video with other people, and let's get together and actually talk talk about this topic. So it's not just me going to be speaking. I want you to share your thoughts as well. Okay. So if you're just logging on, I've just shared the one word for the week, which is change, and I'm about to do the affirmation. So I'm just picking three cards randomly from the box, and then I will read them out, and then we'll be able to progress along with the topic of today, breaking the bias. Okay. So I got three cards. What do they say? Randomly selected. Okay. So the first one says, sorry, got it. I got to arrange them so that it's okay. So in life, all things happen for my highest good. I am a fast learner and make all experiences work for me. I learn the valuable lessons life offers me to grow. That's card number one. Card number two says, I find fulfillment and satisfaction in all I do. My work is meaningful and purposeful as I say yes to life. Life says yes to me fully, and I live my life's calling with so much joy. And the final one says, I take risk with ease. I go beyond my comfort zone and stretch towards the higher and better version of myself. I am bodacious. Woo! Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love those cards. That yes, that we are truly having to live a life whereby we challenge our status quo, we challenge our mindset, and we're willing to take the risks that are necessary. So now we're going to go into the topic of today, which is breaking the bias. As I said, it's a conversation that goes beyond gender issues. And why is that? Yes, I know we celebrated International Women's Day and the theme was breaking the bias. So many people's mindset when they think about breaking the bias now is all about gender equality. And I dare say that bias is something that is deeply rooted in each and every one of us. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, you are biased in one way or the other, and I'm going to prove it to you today. And then also give you some steps as to how you can break the bias way of living and thinking so that you can become unconditioned from that lifestyle and way of doing things and start to do things differently from a vantage point of being fair intentionally to everyone you come across in the world. How does that sound to you guys? I hope you guys are excited. If you are still here with me and you have comments or questions, please type them in the comment section. I will be reading them and I'll be answering them. And I also want you to share your thoughts with me as well. So, can we get started with a definition of what bias is? Because I believe that once we're able to understand what bias is, we'll start to see ways in which we are actually being biased and start to ask ourselves, how did I get to this way of thinking and living? And then how can I break it so that I don't continue in this way? Because now I see that it's affecting the way I do things, the way I see things, and the way I also perceive the people around me. So the definition I have for us is a very simple one. Bias is the inclination or prejudice against a person or a group in a way considered to be unfair. Bias is the inclination or prejudice against a person or a group in a way considered to be unfair. So I want you to take a moment and think about that. What are the inclinations or prejudice that you have with people or with a particular person or particular group of people that now that you know that there are some things that are considered to be unfair is probably a bias that you have. And then you start to wonder, how did I get into the state of being whereby I have this inclination or prejudice against this person or this group of people without consciously having anything to do with it? So, you know that many of us, we're biased against certain things that people do. We're biased against certain nations. We're biased against certain gender. We're biased against certain religious practices. And we use that to kind of inform the way we act or respond to people. So that is the reason why I want you to think about it and start to understand the fact that a lot of our biases are what I call unconscious bias. Unconscious bias. Okay. Okay, so what is unconscious bias? These are learned assumptions, beliefs, or attitudes that we aren't even necessarily aware of. So think about that. Learned assumptions, learned beliefs, learned attitudes that we're not necessarily aware of. Hmm. Meaning that we are all conditioned one way or the other to think and do certain things based on the environment, based on the place where we grew up, based on association, based on education. Okay, so let's start to break it down to many micro levels so that you can start to understand some of the unconscious biases that we are living in right now at this moment. Let's start with the simple one that everybody was talking about last week, gender bias. Okay, we as people already have the beliefs and assumptions that, and it differs from one nation to the other, from one tribe to the other, from one group to the other, that women are supposed to be, you know, the lesser species or lesser gender to the male counterparts. So there are certain positions, there are certain roles, there are certain things that for many people it's difficult for them to see a woman occupy that space. So okay, we beyond our physicality, whereby yes, women are the ones that have the babies and stuff, we get to see whereby in some parts of the world females are not even allowed to go to school. Female are not allowed to be leaders in organizations or in religion sects and stuff. Women are now allowed to actually occupy some certain positions or even go into certain professions, saying that it is for men only. So it would have been difficult for us to be able to comprehend and even see a female plumber, a female doctor, a female judge, you know, or a female minister in certain religions, because it is difficult for some people based on the learned assumptions and teachings that they have to see women occupy those positions. So therefore, when it comes to certain things come into play, we are not given equal opportunities that supposed to be to women in politics, in education, in places of power and stuff. Why? Because of our what I call on bias, unconscious biases that we have. So this unconscious bias is affecting the way we live. It's also affecting the kind of limitations that we place in our families and in our societies, because we say, oh, this certain thing is not a woman's job. We need to do it differently, or we need to give other people the chance to be able to do this or not do that because we feel it is not a right place for a woman. So that's the easy one that we can all think about, the gender inequality. Okay. So now let's move on to one that we're also very familiar with, which is the racial prejudice, racial biases that we have. Once you hear about a certain country, depending on where you're from, you already have a fixed mindset about people from that particular country. So, for instance, if you are an European person that has never actually ventured into the shores of Africa, based on subliminal messaging, based on this, what I called unconditioned bias, educational things that you've learned over time, what you've heard from other people, you might assume that Africans are not literate. You might assume that Africans are not as competent on certain things like Europeans or Americans and stuff, or even the Asians, because of your own limiting way of thinking. So I know this for a fact because I am Nigerian. That is a part of West Africa, and I lived in the continent of the Europe. So I was in the United Kingdom for over 10 years. And I know for a fact that I got many people coming to talk to me and then say that, Oh, you speak English very well. Oh, you're very intelligent. Oh, you're very cultured. And it was like shocking to me. Why? Because I came from a country, Nigeria, whereby many people are so intelligent, well educated, well spoken, and there is so much affluence and abundance in my country, Nigeria. So to move to a country like the United Kingdom and then to have that kind of prejudice or bias being put right in my face was startling. One woman actually said to me that, "Oh, do you feel comfortable wearing clothes?" So you can think that is amazingly funny to think that based on what she had learned, she assumed that Africans probably remind her of Tarzan in the jungle, whereby we'd probably sow leaves and wear, or maybe based on the documentaries and pictures of things she's seen. So to her, she didn't think that I was the normal representation of an African person. Meanwhile, I felt as normal as it gets to be a Nigerian living in the UK, being the way I was, having the kind of hair I had, and also dressing the way I did because that's what I knew. So to have someone have a prejudice against me was startling just because of the fact that I said I was from Nigeria. And that was their own mindset. So I broke the bias for the people that suddenly had a relationship with me and now knew that, oh, not all Africans or not all people that come from certain parts of the world are the way they think they are. So that's why I said we have racial prejudice against each other. And it goes both ways. We have people here in Nigeria as well who are not particularly open minded to people from certain other countries and races as well, especially when it even comes to having relationships with them. So we need to be careful about the biases that we actually adopt in our life. And as I said, there are so many unconscious biases that we learned them through association, through education, and through the orientation that we had in our societies. And we need to start to break those biases and unlearn them and relearn how to live a life without prejudice, without also thinking that other people are this way or that way with our limited thinking. Okay, so I'm going to read some of the comments before I actually share with you what is breaking the bias all about. Okay. So I've got a comment here from Michael Sewell on Facebook that bias are thoughts and feelings that affect how we see or treat people. Bias can be in favor or against them. Absolutely true, Michael. Absolutely true. It can affect how we treat people. And that's why I said it can be positive and it can be negative based on how we've been conditioned to think about certain things. So I'm absolutely thrilled that Michael shared that thought with us because it is so true. Okay. So breaking the bias is all about a call for us to smash all the stereotypes that we have, break the inequality, and reject discrimination. Okay. Because so many of us think that, oh, I'm not a biased person. Yes, you are. I am biased about so many things. And I have had to sit down and start to write down all the things that I'm biased about and ask myself that how can I smash this stereotyping, break this inequality, and reject this discrimination that I have about certain things and certain people? Because I learned it. I assimilated it through information, through the news, through association. And as you know better, you should be able to do better. So I always say there are three categories of people in the world. There are people that don't know what they're supposed to know, and they're blissfully happy in the state of ignorance. I say that they're the worst set of people you want to be part of, okay? You don't know many things and you're happy to stay in your state of ignorance. Then I say the second category of people are the people that have known some certain things. They've learned it, they've experienced it, but they refuse to do the right thing. So I say that they are slightly better than the people that know, but they are actually worse off in terms of attitude because when you know something is supposed to be done to correct or change your way of thinking, your way of doing, and you don't do anything about it, then that's a big problem. Then that means that you're just consciously now, not unconsciously, unconsciously, because the first category of people are unconsciously doing those things because they don't know better. So this second category of people that now know but are still doing the wrong things are consciously choosing to do wrong. Okay, they're choosing to be biased. So it's no more an unconscious bias. It is a conscious bias. They're choosing to be biased about certain people. They're choosing to be biased about certain things. They're choosing to live in a particular way of thinking, and that is wrong. So the third category of people are the people that know things and are choosing to do what is right consciously. And that's where I want all of us to be at. We must consciously choose that once we know that there's a better way of being, there's a better way of doing, then we need to start to implement that change. We need to start to do better. We need to start to tell ourselves that, okay, this thing is wrong. How can I be better? How can I do better? So now, another bias that we don't think about is religious bias. Okay. So many times everybody would say, oh, my religion is the best one, my religion is the right one. And that's a bias because what are the facts that you have to prove to somebody that what they believe in is wrong and that what you believe in is right? And because of that attitude that you have, once you know about someone else's religious tolerance or religious assumptions, you become biased against them. Oh, all Muslims are violent. Oh, all Christians are this way or over self righteous. Oh, all Buddhists are this way. And then that is a bias. And the reason why is because you cannot live in that fixed sense of thinking that certain people that believe in certain things act a certain way. It is not true. Everybody's still an individual. So it's just like saying that everybody that comes from Nigeria are all fraudsters or people that do things in a shady manner. Or all people that come from Jamaica are they're all Rastafarians and they're always smoking ganja and stuff like that. Or all the people that come from the United States are always carrying guns and are willing to shoot anybody at any slight provocation or trigger. So once you have all these biases against people, right, based on you start to tell yourself, oh, something's wrong. So religious bias is the same thing. You cannot just assume that because somebody's a Christian or somebody's a Muslim or somebody's a Buddhist or somebody is an idol worshiper or traditional worship or even an atheist that they are going to act in certain ways and do things in certain ways. It's a bias that we have. And therefore, we treat people in a way that is unfair and uncalled for because of the biases that we have. So another bias that we have that we don't talk about is sexual orientation. Okay. So I know for a fact that there's so many people that are intolerant of people that do not actually have the same views with them when it comes to sexual preferences. So in this world that we live in now, we've got the lesbians, the gays, the transvestites. We've got so many different names for different kind of sexual preferences and sexual orientation. And there are people that just because they know that, oh, you're transvestite, oh, you're lesbian, oh, you're gay, they will refuse to work with you. They'll refuse to just, want to even give you a chance to be yourself or even show your level of skills at the workplace or in a social setting just because of this bias. So when you're biased about somebody because they believe in what's it called, where they have polygamy or polyandry as their lifestyle, we start to say that, oh, something's wrong with this person. So therefore, your bias starts to affect the way you think about that person and it clouds your judgment. So let's say you were supposed to give a contract or a job or a promotion to somebody in your organization or in your circle. And then because of this bias that you have, you suddenly say, I'm not going to give it to that person. That person does this or does that. That's a bias that's unfair because right now, what you've done is you've taken your way of thinking, you've taken your own belief system to make a decision about somebody else's credibility and capacity to be able to do their jobs. Okay. So when we start to look at it from that vantage point, we start to see how we've been doing many people wrong. based on the biases that we have. Okay. So we need to start to break all this bias. Then we also have another bias about qualifications. Okay. The educational bias, whereby we feel that, oh, if you don't have a college degree, you didn't go to university, then you're not as smart as the people that didn't go, right? So many times we look down on some certain professions and say, oh, they only are in this profession because they're not smart. They're only in this profession because they don't have the wherewithal intellectually to be able to actually do certain things. And that is a huge bias that we've seen broken right across the board. We've got people like Mark Zuckerberg, we've got, you know, the Bill Gates and stuff that didn't go to university. They don't have a degree, yet they are doing things that are changing the world that we're all living in, and we are all consumers of their products, right? And based on the bias that we've all been conditioned to believe that, oh, it's other people that go to colleges, universities, have all these degrees that are the smarter ones, that are the competent ones, that are the people with higher IQ. That is definitely a bias that is being broken and it needs to keep on being broken, because when you solely judge people's competence level on the level of education that they have formally, you'll be missing out on a lot of creativity, on a lot of brilliance that people can bring to the table for you as a person, for you as an organization, because of this bias that you have. So when we start to judge people by the level of education and say that, oh, if you can't, if you're not intelligent enough to be able to get a first class degree or whatever, then you're not competent enough, it's a problem. So many times we see people that are entrepreneurs or what we call general traders, and we feel like, well, that's the best they can do because of the fact that they are not smart enough to be able to actually get a degree. It is so not true. Some people consciously chose not to go to university. Some people choose not to further their education because they want to go a different route. And nobody can say that this route is better. It's by conditioning, it's by our learned biases, whereby we believe that this is the only way to succeed in life. This is the only way to fulfill your destiny. And it's so not true. There are many roads out there, and it's for you to find your own path and own it. And it's not about being conditioned or forced to live in a box that other people have put you into that will allow you to become the best version of yourself. You need to free yourself from some of these biases that is limiting you, limiting the way you think, and limiting how you interact with others, where you could have actually learned to have beautiful relationships with people from different parts of the world, but your prejudice is not allowing you to do that. Your bias is not allowing you to be able to be open minded enough to see the opportunities out there. Let us break the biases. Okay. So let me read another comment that I have here. Okay, so Michael again on Facebook says, in some cases, biases can actually be helpful. However, it's important to be aware of them. Yes. So he says that biases can be helpful. However, it's important to be aware of them. And that's the reason why I said, until you're able to know something, then you are not going to be able to make an informed decision about whether or not that bias is good or not. And therefore, the reason why bias cannot necessarily be a good thing is because of the fact that once it is unfair to someone else, then that is a problem. When you have an assumption about somebody and that assumption is fair and right, then that's good. But once it is unfair, once it does the person harm in any way, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical and stuff, then that is where we say it's a bias. A bias is something that definition earlier. And I'll go back and share it again for the people that were listening. A bias is something that is definition earlier. And I'll go back and share it again. A bias is something that is definition earlier. And I'll go back and share it again. A bias is something that is definition earlier. Question. So once you have an inclination or prejudice against the person or group in a way considered to be unfair, you're biased. So therefore, there can be nothing good about being biased, because bias means that you have decided to lean one way, and in the cause of leaning that one way, you're making some decisions that is harming other people. As long as you have assumptions that does not harm the other person, or you have your own way of lifestyle and you're okay with it, but you do not treat other people in an unfair manner because of your own beliefs, then that is fine. So bias is only an issue because of the fact that it is being unfair to people. If you choose not to have women in your organization because of certain reasons that is not based on bias, that is fine. But don't say that, oh, I don't want women in our organization because I believe they're too emotional, or I believe that, they're not going to be able to stay true to do the job, especially when it becomes hard or difficult. That is a bias. That is a bias. But when you say that, oh no, we don't want women here because this job is very demanding, it's going to take them away from it. But if we find women that are competent and are willing to adopt our rules to say that, oh, I don't mind being away from my family 8 months in the year and stuff like that, then you make a conscious decision on that, but not outrule an entire group of people or outrule a particular race and stuff based on your own biases. That is wrong. Okay. You can't do that. It's not going to work. So, another bias that we have, which is so bad, oh my gosh, is the what we call the marital status of people. So, once some people hear that you are single and you're of a certain age, then they start to think, oh, there must be something wrong, especially for females, because when you are female over the age of 30 or going into your 40s and you're not married, people become biased against you. People don't take you seriously. People don't accord you with the level of respect they ought to. Why? Because they are biased by conditioning. People are assumed that married women are way more responsible than the single women. Then once you even now get into the case of say, oh, I'm divorced and separated and stuff like that, the case becomes worse. When you even start to hear, oh, I'm a single parent, it becomes the bias escalates to another level. Why? Because of the way that we've been conditioned to think that, oh, you must have done something wrong. And also is this bias that women that are not able to get the attention of a man enough for them to be married has to have a problem, and therefore they don't deserve the same level of respect for the other women that were able to get a man. So it's actually sending the wrong message to say that, hey, you only earn our respect as a society, as an organization, if you are able to get yourself hitched to another person, especially a man. That is a bias. Okay. The same thing accords to men. In certain organizations, they would not give a man a contract or a particular level of responsibility in the organization if he's single. Why? Because they believe that the men that are married are way more responsible and a lot more secure and stable than the men that are single. And I dare say that is a bias, which is so not true. It's supposed to be dealt on an individual basis. There are lots of men that are married and very irresponsible. And there are a lot of single men that are they're very responsible, have a lot of integrity and commitment of excellence to what they do. So, basing someone's level of integrity, competence, and responsibility on their marital status is a bias. It's a bias. And it's one that needs to be broken because it's an unfair bias. Okay? Once a man or woman tells you they've been divorced multiple times, you also have a bias against them that they are flighty, they are unstable, they are difficult, they don't know how to love people, they don't know how to be tolerant and stuff. And because you're not aware of all the circumstances, it's also a bias, right? So there's just so many biases that we live with in this world. And many of us are so okay with it because we're so entrenched in it and we just do it A lot of them are unconscious, a lot of them are conscious. But does that make it right? Absolutely not. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's up to you to learn about these biases that you have and start to break them. There are certain ways that we view people that are so wrong. And that's what leads me to the next bias, the physical appearance bias, what we call the beauty bias. So we assume, right, that people that look a certain way are the ones that are the pretty ones. They're the ones that are the attractive ones. They're the ones that are the beautiful ones. So we see how beauty pageants are being judged, and we look at what is the universal standard of beauty in certain parts of the world, and we say that, oh, you need to look a certain way, you need to walk a certain way, and then you need to also conform to certain sizes. Otherwise, you're not considered to be beautiful or to have what we call the right figure. And that is a bias because not everybody has been created to be the same way. And not everybody's taste also lends the same way. There are many people that are supposed to be dark. There are many people that are supposed to be medium colored. There are many people that are supposed to be fair skinned. There are many people that are supposed to have long hair. There are many people that are supposed to have short hair. There are many people that are supposed to have curly, frizzy hair. And there are many people that are supposed to have straight hair. So some people are biased by even the kind of hairstyles you have. For a long time, I was very biased and prejudiced against people that had dreadlocks, right? And the minute I saw anybody carry dreadlocks, I always felt like something's wrong with this person. And I had to break that bias and start to see people for who they were and not based on the kind of hairstyles they carry. And realize that, you know what? The individuality of the person's beauty of character and their essence must be allowed to come through. And I must be able to go beyond my own limited way of thinking, especially when it came to external appearances. I'm an image and personal branding specialist. And I always tell my clients that unfortunately, we live in a world where people base a lot of things on the way we look. So when you don't dress in an appropriate manner, when you don't look a certain way in certain organizations, in certain kind of industries, you will find it difficult to be able to break through because of the fact that they have a way of thinking, and then they'll say that this is what is going to be more appealing to our clients or to our customers. Like the entertainment industry, they expect you to look a certain way, dress a certain way, have a certain kind of lifestyle for you to be able to garner the interest and the followers that will buy into your music and come to your concert and stuff like that. So when we start to look at all these kind of things, right, it affects the way people will actually be like, oh, okay, if I don't dress a certain way, if I don't look a certain way, I would be disqualified from getting this kind of job or breaking into this industry. And it's a bias that we need to break because if people are not allowed to be judged by their skills, it becomes a problem. And that's why I love the show The Voice so much because when they do the first audition, the judges don't get to see what you look like. They're just solely listening to your voice because the competition is all about being someone that is a competent singer. But if they had been allowed to see you, the way you look and stuff like that, so many times a lot of people are moved by what they see. They're going to first of all say, she's pretty. Oh, he's handsome. He's got this look. And probably allow you to get off on not having a good voice enough, but say that you have all the other things. We can train him to be a better singer and stuff like that. So that is a bias, right? While you won't give the same level of opportunity to someone that is overweight or someone that doesn't have the kind of look that you find commercially appealing, based on our own judgment and criteria of what beauty is, it's a problem. I remembered for a long time, right, that having straight hair was the norm. So I always had my hair relaxed as a child. And it was not until I got married and was having my children and I realized that, hey, why do I keep relaxing my hair? It's not like I really believe in this whole point of having, it's just because that was how I grew up in the system whereby I wasn't even given an opportunity to wear in. My mother already had my hair relaxed by the time I was like age 3 or 4. So I had to make a conscious decision to say, no, I don't want to have my hair chemicalized it anymore. So I've got natural hair. And I said, I can choose to do whatever else I want to do with my hair. So I've got natural hair and I wear wigs, different kind of wigs to suit my mood and to suit wherever I want to go to without compromising on my own integrity and beliefs about my hair. But if I was going to work in a particular industry and stuff and wigs didn't exist, I would have had to conform because they'll say, no, this kind of hair is not acceptable. Just like I said, I had prejudice against people with dreadlocks. It was the same thing. So if I had my kinky afro hair out in a particular kind of job or whatever, they might have frowned upon it. In fact, I remember when I transitioned and became a naturalist, carrying my natural hair. I went from a kind of woman that had all those fancy weave-ons and stuff on with straight hair to carrying my kinky hair. And people actually came to me and said, is everything all right? Are you going through a crisis or stuff like that? Because they assumed it's only people that can't afford to have their hair done that carry natural hair. So that was a freaking crazy bias that even I was shocked that people had. And I said, oh, this is one of the reasons why this is not popular with the younger girls. So I had to start that trend of carrying my natural hair, rocking it, and feeling as beautiful as I can and showing it to the rest of the world. And now it's the norm for many African women, many Black Americans, many women of African descent choosing to not have their hair processed or relaxed, and they're proudly carrying their natural hair. So many women now choose to cut their hair. Why? Because prejudice again. Oh, you have to have long hair. Oh, you have to have short hair. Who gets to decide all those things? You have to be able to decide what is right and what is wrong and live with the consequences. Okay. So, okay, yes, this is a good one. Michael says, I've met people who have a bias based on someone's accent or even their name. That was the next point I was actually going to go to, accent and name. So the prejudice we have about people's names, somebody goes, what's your name? And you say, my name is, so I'll probably use my son's full name, Oluwatobi Loba. And then they'll be like, oh, is there a short form of that name? And I'll be like, no, it's Oluwatobi Loba. Because many times we don't realize it's disrespectful because that person is not from your race, is not from your culture, and you cannot pronounce their names, you don't have the right to shorten the name unless a person gives you permission. So some people already would say, no, 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 that name's not going to work. And that prejudice goes with you everywhere you go. So even in my country, we have so many cultures and so many different tribes. So some names are so difficult for me to pronounce. But I got on my way to learning because I'm a communicator and I also work as a master of ceremonies. So if I'm supposed to read out somebody's name and I murder it, that is the highest level of disrespect to that person that I can afford to them. So I go out of my way to learn the proper pronunciation. And I don't try and shorten the name. And if I find it constantly difficult to say the name in full, unless the person tells me, oh, you can call me this, I will keep on saying that name till it becomes comfortable. So we have a lot of biases on names and stuff. So we feel like if the names are not John, they're not Mary, they're not, Susan and stuff like that, then, they're too complicated. And that is a bias. It's complicated for you. That don't mean it's complicated for the people of that tribe or that race that came up with that name. So let us learn to become unbiased about the way we think. So I love the fact that Michael mentioned accent, right? There are many people that say that, oh, you have a funny accent to other people, forgetting that your own accent is also foreign to another person and sounds funny to them. So whereby many people are trying to mask their own kind of way of speaking or changing the way they speak to be able to sound more like an American or sound more like a British person. Many other people are like, why are you trying to change the way you sound? Just be you, be authentic, be original. And it's because of the bias that people have. So you cannot say you want to be a newscaster for an international television show and you don't have a polished accent that is universally acceptable and easy on the ears to people from different parts of the world. So many people, when they're trying to mimic Africa, they say, "How are you? How is everything going?" And I laugh because I'm like, I am African, I am Nigerian, and I don't sound like that. And I keep telling them, I was like, dude, what kind of accent were you just trying to? Like, you think that we have a universal accent as Africans? You are so wrong. We all don't sound the same. It's just like saying that everybody from Jamaica speaks patois and has the Icelandic accent and stuff. And it's not true. I have lots of friends from Jamaica, from Barbados and stuff that do not have that Icelandic accent at all. So when you judge people based on their accent and stuff, it becomes a problem. In fact, I dare say that once somebody told me, I met somebody online, and when the person said, "I'm from Jamaica," and I was like, I can't get you on my show because I'd not even listened to this man. But just because he mentioned where he was from, I already had my unconscious bias springing forth. And I was like, mm-mm, he's going to be speaking in a way, his accent is going to be heavy, it's going to be difficult. And shockingly, when I spoke to the person, he had the most amazing voice, beautiful accent. And I was like flabbergasted. And I was just like, there goes reason why you should never be biased about people. You must never expect that you know everything about people or people from a certain place and stuff because that is a bias that is springing forth and you need to break it. So that's the reason why I'm telling you all these different biases. So now let's start to look at social status bias as well. Now, that would be the last one because of time. You think that, oh, people that live in certain areas, people that have certain kind of jobs, have certain amount of money in the pockets, are people that should be much more significant or have more value in life. That is a bias. Why are you basing the significance or importance of people based on their address or based on their financial wealth? It is not a right way to treat people. So because somebody has XXX millions in the account does not mean that person is a nice person that you want to get to know. Just because somebody does not have so much money but has so much integrity, has so much value, has so much love in their heart, does that make that person less worthy because of the fact that you have a bias called social network bias? So we think that, oh, unless you live in a particular place, drive a certain car, have certain amount of money in your pocket, that is how you can be determined to be somebody of importance. Importance has nothing to do with the amount of money you have. Yes, it can affect the influence you have on people. Yes, it can afford you to be able to do more things than the person that had less money, but it doesn't make you more important or more significant or more valuable than the person that doesn't have the same zip code as you, or the person that doesn't drive the kind of car you drive, or the person that does not have the same financial capacity and strength that you do. So that is a bias, right? And then the final one, I said I was going to mention one, okay? Last one, but this one is so important to me, is the issue of, professions whereby sports in particular. I know for a fact that people are prejudiced enough or even biased to say that most people that become professional sportsmen and women are the people that could not cut it when it came to academics. And that is one stupid bias that many people have. Right. So they'll tell you that, oh, you are so bad in school. Just go and find something else to do, become a musician or become a sports person, meaning that if you cannot become a doctor, you cannot become a lawyer, you cannot become an accountant and stuff, then becoming a professional sports person or becoming an artist or becoming a musician or an actress is because you had no other option. And that is a bias that needs to be broken. There is a lady called Kathy in Nigeria. She's one of the biggest, most popular dancers in the world. And she is a doctor of academics. She is freaking intelligent and smart. And she chose to become a dancer because that was her passion. She believed that that was her calling as well. And it was not because she had no option. So Kathy can dance and Kathy can hold a brilliant conversation with the best of the best of PhD holders and whoever you are in the corporate world. So that was a bias that needs to be broken because once she introduces herself as a dancer, you're going to first of all come think, oh, she's like a bird brain. She's probably dumb and stuff. So she's just pretty to look at. She knows how to dance, and that's the reason why she's where she's at. Excuse me, no. It's another prejudice. So, would you say that Serena and Venus Williams are not smart people because they chose to become tennis players? Or to think that someone like Rafael Nadal, because he doesn't have a degree, is not intelligent enough to be able to run a 500 fortune company in the future? Wrong. There's so many of the Americans that I know that are tennis professional players and they have degrees. So saying that, oh, because you are a professional sports person or you are a dancer or musician or an artist is no less important, or it doesn't mean that you're not as smart or as intelligent as the other people that chose to go down a different route that it seems to be much more professional, like a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, a physicist, uh, whatever it is that other people are doing with their lives. So I want you to understand that these biases need to be broken. We need to be able to look at people based on who they are and accord the merit to them, not because of the titles in front of the names or at the end of the names, not because of their geographical location, not because of their gender, not because of their religious practices, not because of their academic background or lack thereof, not because of the way they speak or the accents they have, not because of the way they look, but because of the competence, the capacity that they bring, the value they bring to the table individually. Breaking the bias needs to stop. And it can only stop with me and you changing the way we think about people and then breaking some of the assumptions we have, breaking some of the limiting thinking we have, breaking some of the stereotypings that we have, and stop putting people into neat little boxes and trying to keep them there. We are limiting many people from being the best of themselves, and we're limiting ourselves from being exposed to people that can be absolutely amazing collaborators and friends and just life journey partners with us because of our biases. Whether your bias is conscious or not, a bias is a bad thing because it's being unfair to other people or to a group of people. There is no good that comes from being biased about things. You and I need to break the biases that we have so that we can live in a world whereby everybody is judged and based on merits, not by the political zone, not by the country they're from, not by the gender or the religious practices they have, not by their financial worth, not by any other reason apart from what they uniquely bring to the table. Bias is not a good thing. Bias is something that we've all been conditioned to do. And many of us do it unconditional. We do it without thinking. We do it many times because of what we know. And that's the reason why I'm saying to you today that don't be in that category of people that now know that these things are wrong and still continue to do it. Be mindful of the fact that you are being biased to other people, just as the same way you complain that other people are being biased to you. Let's break the bias. It's not just a gender equality issue, it's a world phenomenal issue that we all need to break, whereby we constantly judge people. We constantly have prejudice against people. We constantly have this mindset or fixations about certain people based on what we think is right and what we feel they ought to be like. Breaking the bias is a worldwide pandemic that we need to break. Let's break the biases that exist on an emotional level, on a psychological level, on a physical level, on a financial level, on every pathway that we can think of. Because when you start to see the biases that you yourself are impacting into the world, you will be much more conscious about being an advocate of change by changing the way you think, by changing the way you act, by changing the way you treat others, by changing the way you make informed decisions, by changing the way you even have meaningful relationships with others by your limited way of thinking. And then you start to free yourself from this prejudice and start to tell yourself, be more open minded. Know that you have these biases and be wary of them whenever you meet people or when you hear people speak or when you see other people. Because at the end of the day, our biases will always come up from time to time, but we have the power to be able to control them. I hope you guys have learned a thing or two about breaking the biases that exist, especially now that you're more aware that bias is beyond a gender issue. It's so many different things on so many different levels. And therefore, we need to start to have different kind of conversations, different kinds of trainings, different kinds of unconditioning so that we can be better and be less biased in the way we do. Bias might be something we might never be able to eradicate from the world, but it's something that we can start to reduce and do better and teach others how to be less biased as well. Because you cannot ask of others what you yourself are not willing to do. Once again, I want to say thank you for joining me on today's broadcast of Live a Phenomenal Life Show. This is season 5, episode 22, where we've been talking about breaking the bias beyond a gender issue. My name is Madame Merola, and I am the bang creator that ignites the beautiful and bold, audacious, no excuses, God's masterpiece in you. I look forward to having you join me again next week, Monday, where we'll have another topic and discussion about something that would inspire, empower, and transform your life one show at a time. I want you to know that you are God's masterpiece. There is something in you that only you can deliver. Start to ask yourself, how can you show up in this world more authentically, more powerfully, in a way that you will be honoring the God that created you and also working from a place of your strength and beliefs because you know that there's something in you that only you can do the way you do. Be phenomenal always. Do you 100% unapologetically and live a phenomenal life always. If you're looking for someone to coach you to be able to start to live life from a vantage point of view where you own your genius, you start to discover your strengths and start to own them and use them to build a powerful, prominent, and profitable brand, I would love to be your coach. I would love to be the one that helps you to transform both within and without so that you are not just someone that is showing up in this world, you are truly, truly living your best life. Take care of yourself. Be good to you. Until next time, God bless you and bye. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining me and enjoy the rest of your Monday. God bless you and bye bye. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and also share with others. It's going to be on replay on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and on Instagram. Take care and blessings. Bye.